So every time the world enters a season of conflict, something predictable happens. People start quoting Bible verses, usually from the Old Testament, stories of battles, ancient wars, passages where God's people believed they were fighting on God's behalf. And sometimes those verses get used as if they are a direct instruction manual for modern conflicts. But the Bible itself invites us to slow down before we read it that way, because the Old Testament was written over many centuries to specific communities living in very particular circumstances. Ancient Israel existed in a world of tribal warfare, powerful empires, and constant threat. Like every culture, they were trying to understand their relationship with God in the middle of their own history. And those texts matter deeply. They are sacred, they're part of a story of faith, but they also come from a time and a place. And responsible reading asks questions. Who was this written for? What was happening in that moment of history? What problem was this passage addressing? Scripture is not a collection of slogans that we get to pull out to justify whatever we already think. It is a long story of humanity learning, wrestling, and growing in its understanding of God. For Christians, that story reaches a turning point in the life of Jesus. When people expected a Messiah who would defeat their enemies through force, Jesus walked a different road. When violence surrounded him, he refused to return it. When one of his followers reached for a sword, Jesus told him to put it away. And even as he was dying, he prayed for the people who were killing him. Father, forgive them. That doesn't mean that every question about justice, war, or protection is simple. The world is complicated, and faithful people wrestle with hard questions. But for followers of Jesus, one thing always guides our reading of Scripture. We've got to ask, what does the life of Christ reveal about the heart of God? Because the goal of Scripture is not just to help us win arguments. The goal is to help shape us into people who reflect the character of God. And in Jesus, that character looks like mercy, courage, forgiveness, and peace.